In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Marianne's guests are leaders in their field, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in their own work. They teach others to develop, refocus, and grow. Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. And remember, make every moment count.
Welcome to Moments with Marianne. Today we are with a very special guest, Parvati Markus. She's the author of Love Everyone. So welcome to the show, Parvati.
Well, thank you, Marianne.
Thank you. What just a fabulous book this is.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and kind of going through it, for people that are kind of maybe new to you or new to your story, why don't you share with our listeners a little bit about what inspired you to write this book?
Oh, well, that's very easy. In 1969, yes, I'm that old, I met Ram Dass. And 2 years later, I found myself in India at the feet of his guru, Neem Karoli Baba, Maharaji as we call him. And that experience of being there in India for a year with Maharaji was probably the most extraordinary thing I've ever experienced. To be with somebody who, just showers you with unconditional love. I mean, how many times in your life do you have that experience?
Mm-hmm.
So,
a life-changing experience.
Life-changing experience, as you know from everyone in the book.
Mm-hmm.
It was the same for all of us, which was quite extraordinary 40 years down the road, And basically, these people, the ones who are devotees of Neem Karoli Baba became my spiritual community. And that has been where I've been for the, last 4 decades.
Well, and I know in your book you talk about this very powerful experience you had when you first met the Maharaji.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Would you like the story?
Please. We love good stories.
Good story. It's really a good story. When I first met Ram Dass and I, moved in sort of immediately into his father's farm, it was the summer of 69. And at the time there were about a dozen of us living there, and I became Ram Dass's secretary. He asked if anyone could type, and I knew how to type. And so I sort of spent that summer, acting as his secretary, helping, type up letters to all the people that were writing him at that point, because he'd been on the lecture circuit for a year at that point. And after the summer was over, I had a little black and white picture of Maharaji that Ram Dass had given me, and this mala of, New Hampshire pine.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was back in New York after that summer, and Ram Dass was out of touch. He was off at the Lama Foundation, which didn't even have a phone at the time, I don't think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, it was really, you were there. You were on retreat.
It is remote. That is remote retreat.
Yes, definitely. And I wound up splitting a tab of acid with an old friend of mine and having some really extraordinary experiences. But on my way down, I was starting to get scared of things, that were appearing.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat in front of this little black and white picture of Maharaji that Ram Dass had given me. And I, clutching my mala, going, my mantra was, I'm scared and you've got to help me. I'm scared and you've got to help me. I have no idea how long I did that for, but suddenly the picture sort of dissolved in a flash of blue light, and I could see Maharaji there, moving. And it was just, seconds, I'm sure. But it was all I needed. I knew he was there. I knew that, I was all right. That whatever was to be experienced on, as I came down from the trip was going to be okay. needless to say, after that, I got a much larger picture. And I spent my life up until the point where I finally went to India talking to that picture. And periodically I would see Maharaji in it. And I mean, I didn't tell anyone. You didn't tell anyone you talked to pictures back then.
Yeah, it's a little different now. I mean,
a little different now, but back then, you weren't talking about that to other people.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I finally get to Maharaji, and it's my first darshan, my first meeting with him. And he looks at me and he goes, "You used to talk to my picture all the time. You asked many questions."
You kind of love that now, don't you?
Yeah. So that sort of sealed the deal,
Yeah, you kind of like, well, how did you know? Did you ask him, how did you know that?
No. I mean, I knew Ram Dass's story about, his mother's spleen. Where did Maharaji pull that one out of the air from?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he used to let us know in all sorts of really subtle ways that he just knew everything. And you became, you expected that after a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was that level of expectation. He knew everything that was going on.
Exactly. Yeah, so there's no place to hide, no place to run. He knows it all.
Well,
and still loves you. Totally.
Well, you gotta, hey, that's amazing. I mean, we have a hard time loving ourselves on bad hair days,
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. Well,
yeah.
and that must have been really comforting, especially when you're on this spiritual journey to, kind of delve deeper into who it is that I am and, what am I doing here? What am I all about? To get that kind of feedback from somebody that is as gifted as that,
Absolutely.
You know that no matter what, you're getting positivity back and they see you for what you are, and who you are.
Right, and it's funny because at one point Maharaji said to me, he said, "You used to be Ram Dass's private secretary." He said, "Now you're mine." and that's what I sort of felt like doing the book. And then he used to, in English, he used to call me private secretary.
It's amazing where the gift of typing will take you, right?
It really, isn't it? Back then, only secretaries typed, It was like not everybody had a keyboard.
Yeah. It definitely was something that not everyone learned.
That's right.
Well, and so during your time, those early days that you spent there, what is like one of the takeaways? And I know, gosh, it's probably going to be the basis of your book here, but one of the takeaways that you can share with our listeners.
I think probably the biggest takeaway is just the true experience of oneness.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fundamental space of our spiritual being. And to have been able to tap into that and to have so many compatriots around me doing the same thing at the same time was just, I think that's probably my biggest thing. I mean, we all know that we're one.
Mm-hmm. Well, and some people are just figuring that out or just learning what that really means and how that looks.
Right, you can't turn around and, kill blacks and kill cops and, still know that we're one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You look around and you see separateness, and fear comes from separation.
Well, and with that, I think that's why a book like yours, Love Everyone, is so important, especially right now in the climate that we're having. Because I think more than ever, people need to hear that, and be able to feel that way about everyone that they come in contact with.
Right.
Regardless.
Yeah.
Color.
Of course, there are those who don't quite understand the title, It's like, how can you possibly love everyone? I don't like my mother. I don't like my sister.
Well, and that's the one thing is when you start going into that journey, it really is, for me at least, it's a never-ending journey. Just as you get to one point, another petal unfolds, and it's like, I'm gonna now walk into this new discovery.
Right.
It definitely is a journey of the heart, and it's a constant progression.
It's a journey without a destination, really.
Really.
It's the path. The path will just keep taking you along.
If you had kids in the back seat, they'd be asking, "Are we there yet?"
Are we there yet? Right. We gave that up. In the beginning, there was a lot of that. There was a lot, when we first got into all of this back in the late 60s and early 70s, and there were only a few books, and it was all very sort of, secretive in a way almost.
Yeah.
And it was sort of like, well, how long do you think it'll take to get enlightened?
It's funny in those kind of questions. You just know, it's something to laugh at because that might be the destination, but
right.
I don't really feel that, at least for me personally. I mean, it's not something that I'm looking at as the end goal. I guess to enjoy the journey and.
For all of us, I think the goal at this point is just to try to keep our hearts open.
Yeah.
I think if we can do that in this climate with what's going on in the world, I think we've, gotten a few gold stars on the path.
Well, and I think it's important to reach out to our neighbors and show, just connect with people. Get to know them, connect with them, Reach out to our local police department and connect with them also, And
my next door neighbor is a policeman. And he actually wrote something on our sort of community blog, about how upset he was with what was going on after Dallas.
Yeah.
And, it makes it all very real when there's a real person that saying these things. And
when that happened, that was, me personally, I felt like it was, it was just something that hurt us all.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It was just a horrible pain. And that's why I'm so glad that we're having this discussion now and being able to talk about this. Because, I think the wisdom within this book really will help people, if they're like, hey, I don't know how to love everybody, then I would suggest pick up Love Everyone, and, and start your own journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be with Maharaji. It doesn't have to be, it's like there's so many ways in. There's so many pathways in.
And what this does is it shows a path and different ways that you and others have taken to get there, and not like anyone's arrived, but
right,
Maharaji, but and Ramdas too, but
he's getting just so beautiful, Ramdas. He's getting up there. He's 85 now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and, his body is getting a little frail, but he's so shining bright. And it's like entering into a field of love when you come to see him. It's really incredible.
You really have had an amazing journey and have really taken it places that, with this book that really can help a lot of people with, opening their hearts.
Yeah, I hope what people can see is that the people that I interviewed in the book are they're all us. These are not Indians they're not Indians who have a long time tradition of bhakti yoga and, worshiping a guru. None of us came from that, but we're all just, and then you see what people have become and the ways they've chosen, to serve. So I think that's good for people to see that it's just ordinary folk. It's not all Ram Dasses.
Yeah, well, and I agree with you because it's just regular people on their journey, of self-discovery, and in the process, they discover something amazing about not only themselves but each other.
Right. And some became, really into the path of Bhakti Yoga, which is really what, this is about in a way. But others went very much into other realms, heavily into Tibetan Buddhism or into Vipassana mindfulness meditation. And, but we all meet in the heart. We all meet in the same heart.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Now, if you were to leave our listeners with, one thought, what would that be?
Oh,
I know there's lots of them.
Yeah.
Lots of good stuff here.
It would be just work with what it means for you to love everyone. It's not romantic love. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about even liking someone. It's like when Ram Dass used to put up pictures on his puja table of politicians he had trouble with. You can have opinions and things about people. You may not want to spend time with them, but to recognize that everyone has within them that same spark of God. And in that place, we're all one. And in that place, you can love everyone.
Yeah. Well, that is definitely a beautiful thought. And it's really for people who have not heard about oneness or what it means to love everyone, I definitely would suggest picking up the book. It's available at all major retailers, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and you can pick it up everywhere. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us today.
Oh, you're so welcome. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, we greatly appreciate you taking the time and sharing your light with us.
Ram Ram.
As we say goodbye to Parvati Markus, let's welcome Raghu Markus, also a contributor to Love Everyone. Welcome to the show, Raghu.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you.
Oh, what a joy it is to have you here. What a fabulous book. And I'd love to hear how you got involved in that.
Well, in my role, I've got a couple of different hats, but one of them is as the director of the Love, Serve, Remember Foundation, which is, for those of you who know Ram Dass, who wrote that famous book, Be Here Now. This is a foundation that we started, and it's dedicated to making sure that all of the teachings that he's been involved with and our teacher in India, Neem Karoli Baba, has been involved with all these years, and making sure it gets out to the next generation. So we've got a very robust website, ramdas.org, and a wonderful new app called Ram Dass that's for Android and iOS phones. And in the process of that, we have, for many years, people have been saying to us, why don't you put a book out of all you Westerners and your experiences going to India after Ram Dass first introduced his guru, Neem Karoli Baba, who we called affectionately Maharaji. So we, for many years, thought about it, and it was a huge project, and it meant someone going around not just the country, but around the world to interview people who were there at that time. There was about, I would say, we don't know for sure, but somewhere up near 200 Westerners actually made that trip, that trek to India back in the day. And this happened over a period of, with Ram Dass, of course, Ram Dass was there in 1967, and there was a couple of other Westerners, one of them whose name is Bhagavan Das, who actually introduced him. And then when he came back, and he was not supposed to say a word, of course, about this guru, and that's all he did. He couldn't help himself. So as a result, many of us were like, okay, this sounds great. I want to go, And he was at first negative, and then we pestered him. And those of us that pestered him hard managed to get over there. He went back the second time at the end of fall of 1970, and that started a flow which became over 3 years because Maharaji died in the fall of 1973. So over that 3-year period, upwards of 150 to 200 Westerners, which now sounds like, wow, that's not a lot of people. I mean, considering, you know, the teachers and gurus that come to the States now, and they have like tens of thousands of followers and so on. But in reality, of course, Ram Dass wrote that book, Be Here Now, and which a couple of million people, of course, became familiar with who Neem Karoli Baba is. So we decided that we had it was really part of our mission to make sure that we got down all these people's experiences. And one of the things we thought that would be really, really great for people is the fact that these people that went over there, they have the same, they're no different than anybody else growing up in this culture.
Yeah.
And just the same doubts, the same cynicism, the same, you know, wondering, is this all we have? Is, you know, this our senses, our ego, is that who we are? And then finding through, initially, of course, through Ram Dass, well, wait a minute, there may be some, and psychedelics. Of course, I have to put that in there because obviously, for people who know Ram Dass he was a professor at Harvard, and he worked as Richard Alpert, and he worked with Timothy Leary, and of course they were notorious for the Harvard magic mushroom experiments, which they eventually got thrown out for. But yeah. It also led us to understand another reality. And so all of us, we felt that all of us that had these experiences, those experiences could really be relatable to a reader today, especially new generation and millennials and so on. So that gave us a huge impetus to get this project started, and we did it with Parvati Markus. Obviously, we are associated by marriage, my first marriage, and she went out and did these extensive interviews. I mean, really extensive, and from that was born Love Everyone, which was Maharaji's central edict to us. Love everyone, feed everyone, and remember God. So Love, Serve, Remember, which is the name of the foundation that we started with Ram Dass. So that's the genesis of how this book came about.
Oh, and that's what a fabulous beginning. I mean, because I think a lot of us, it's something that we can relate to. We're, you know, struggling to, you know, understand who it is that we are, our place in the universe, and our place just on this planet with other people, you know? Yep, exactly. Yeah, and hey, you know, there's a lot of parallels, Marianne, isn't there, between what was happening in the late 60s, early 70s with the culture, with the polarity, with the Vietnam War at that time, and politically what was going on. Boy, I mean, there's some real identical things going on right now. The political polarity, the cultural polarity, racial polarity, economic polarity. I mean, we have a lot of very, very, very similar situations in many ways from those two periods, that period and what's going on now. So I think people, especially millennials, are really looking for a way to, what can we do to first help ourselves become more balanced beings, and what can we do once we get our own situation, our own heart straight, what can we do to help? So I think that that's why I think this book, although it's got a lot of course, people's personal experience with what it was like to be around that kind of a being, but it's also got a lot of teachings around how we can transform ourselves so that we can be of some use to our fellow humans. So I do think it's very important from that perspective as well. Well, and I think it helps to kind of give a viewpoint, and you're right, there are some definite parallels that are happening. If we're faced with the same problems, then we have to start looking at different solutions. And, loving everyone and realizing that we're all one is probably, it makes it sound like that's kind of like, oh, that's kind of easy. But doing that inside journey and discovering that and coming to the realization of that is, I think, something that will change the world. And only if it's like one person here or one person there.
Yeah, and as you said, it sounds easy, and love everyone, and it can be, of course, love like everything else or many things in our culture, how we use words and they become trite. Certainly love is one of them. Guru is another one, by the way. I think if you get into the book, you really see what he was talking about, Neem Karoli Baba, when he was talking about love. It wasn't the interpersonal love that we are also very familiar with. The kind of love, if you love me, I will love you back. It's a deal, and unfortunately that's what happens in many marriages, particularly, and why we have such a high divorce rate. It's very difficult to get into a place where that love that you give another person is not conditional. It's not dependent on something coming back to you. That's a very, very difficult concept and a very difficult practice. And that's a part of this whole thing as well. I mean, we can't just love everyone without initiating some self-inquiry and some practice. Mindfulness, of course, is a big byword as well today. And that's extraordinarily important, so we can see what our motivations are. We can really get into the background of how we act on a day-to-day in a day-to-day situation with people. And so there are things we need to do, which are practices, and there's so many different kinds of practices that are available, in order to get to the place where we can even think of loving everyone. And you're not going to love everyone all the time, but it is something that we can aspire to. I mean, the whole thing about meeting this being in India, Neem Karoli Baba, you could see, here's somebody who has gone beyond duality. And it wasn't that he was even loving us. He was sitting in that vibration. It was very empty of ego. There was no either. It was completely empty of ego. And he was just sitting in an essence that we partaked in. It's like a beautiful lake that is, on a very hot day that you go into it and you just completely, utterly relax. It was that kind of a thing. So the idea is this is the potential that we have. I mean, he was a human being. And we could see, okay, there's real potential here. I mean, the most famous quote from a man named Dr. Larry Brilliant, who works for the Skoll Foundation he has a famous story in the book of how he helped eradicate smallpox in India and around the world, and it's a really fascinating story. And he said when he sat there with a bunch of the Westerners around him, and Neem Karoli, he said, I expected the guru to love me. That's his job, right? But what I didn't expect was me loving all the people around me. And that's the essence of what this book is, love everyone.
How beautiful is that? Well, Raghu, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us today. Can you please just let our listeners know again where they can find you? I know you have a podcast that you do. I think it's important that they check that out as well.
Sure, yes. So under the Love Serve Remember Foundation, we have two sites. One is ramdas.org, and you can go there and get that wealth of 50 years of media that we've assembled around not just Ramdas and friends. So BeHereNowNetwork.com, and you can check me out because I've got a podcast called Mind Rolling, and you can find that there as well. So ramdas.org and BeHereNowNetwork.com.
Oh, that sounds really fascinating. Oh, and of course the book. We can't forget the book.
The book, yeah, love everyone. Of course, the easiest thing is to go to Amazon and get it, but you can go to ramdas.org and go into the store and that helps out. A few shekels go to the foundation when you buy the book, and that's easy to find again on ramdas.org. But it's available pretty much everywhere. So, and the paperback will be available in November. So.
Oh, well, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, I was so delighted to get my hands on this book, and what great information it has, and definitely want our listeners to check out your podcast. I see it's called Mind Rolling. That sounds very fascinating. I'm going to be checking it out myself, and that's at BeHereNowNetwork.com. I'd like to thank all of our listeners, and thank you again, Raghu, for being here with us.
Thank you for having me, Marianne.
You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. We're going to be right back after these messages.
Is a story of hope for the hopeless and faith amidst tragedy. Follow Piper on a journey of loss and redemption as she tries to find the one man who can help her figure out why she must be Piper once and again. www.carolinezani.com.
Are you a successful entrepreneur or sales professional, but you're ready to take your success to the next level? I'm Bob Berg, and I invite you to join me at our next Go Giver Sales Academy. You'll learn how to communicate your exceptional value to more people, sell at full price, become objection-proof, and embrace the abundance that's your birthright. Limited to just 12 people, so it's personalized, impactful, and transformational. Visit GoGiverSalesAcademy.com and see what others are saying.
This is Tanya Carroll Richardson, author of the new book, Angel Insights. I used my psychic gifts to get messages from the angels to write this book, and I'd like to help you get personalized messages from your own angels. Learn your subconscious blocks, make sense of the past and present, and receive advice about navigating your future in an angel reading at TanyaBlessings.com. Book a session with me and your angels at TanyaBlessings.com.
Ben Wexler is a gifted leadership development and strategy consultant for professionals who want to transform their organizations and careers. Through a uniquely personalized set of processes, participants discover their unique knowledge, how to leverage that knowledge and experience, and then put it all together with a global strategy. You're more valuable, your organization is more valuable, and the change is viral. Contact Ben at 630-881-1074, 630-881-1074.
Hello, this is J.J. Burton, former NFL pro football player and now author, keynote speaker, elite trainer, and success coach. To play in the NFL, it takes certain qualities, principles, and a work ethic that's unmatched. The secret strategy for success is something that I train top leaders, CEOs, sales teams, and entrepreneurs who are looking to move their game to the next level. If you need some VIP coaching or looking for a motivational and spirited keynote speaker, hire me and cultivate a culture of success by visiting jjburden.com.
During times of uncertainty, challenges, and change, how do we find a ray of hope to move forward? In Amy Van Adde-Slater's best-selling book, Moments, Magic, Miracles, and Martinis, she offers a torch of inspiration, motivation, mindfulness, and authenticity that illuminates even the most desperate of situations with possibility. Order your copy today to see what the buzz is all about at www.amyvslater.com.
Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I am so excited to be spending this time here with you today. We're going to be introducing a very special guest. She's a dear friend of mine, and she's my personal mentor, Miss Judy Goodman. Now, many of you have heard Judy on the show before. She is absolutely phenomenal, and there's a reason why people call her the teacher beyond conventional wisdom. So let's welcome to the show, Judy.
Hi, Marianne. It's good to be with you again. It's been a little while since we've done our last show. And, I was thinking that since we began this some while back, I think congratulations are probably in order. Haven't you moved up in your ratings from up to second place in your ratings now, or are you already at first place?
Well, I believe I'm at second place, but there's some people that have been doing this a little bit longer than me. So, but thank you, Judy.
Well, congratulations. Good to be with you again.
Thank you. It's so great to have you here and spend this time with you. And I'm really, your conversation in regards to why do we hurt is something that I think we really need to hear today.
Well, I agree. There's so much going on in the world. Every time we turn on a television, every news report we hear, we're talking about pain at one level or another. And my big push right now is to talk about why do we hurt. There are so many reasons why we hurt. Pain is no respecter of anything. It crosses all barriers, and we all feel pain at one level or another, and once we can begin to identify what the pains are that we're feeling, then the next step might be to understand it so that we can, in fact, deal with it, eliminate it, or progress and move on. And, a side effect here, Marianne, is that without pain, many of us do not understand joy. We don't know how to be happy, how to feel good. So, it's a complex situation, to say the very least. But we'll name a few of the different kinds of pain. But bottom line is pain is pain. No matter why you hurt, it's something that you're going to want to deal with. And you can grow, you can learn, you can grow. And if your pain goes on too long, then I feel like perhaps we need to look at it and say, okay, how long am I willing to endure this? How long am I willing to put up with this? Because pain, believe it or not, is an opportunity to learn and to grow. Now, if that's true, and I believe that it is, well, then when is enough enough? And how long are you willing to hurt before you start processing what it is? So let's just name a few of these. And let me also say, Marianne, that I'm working on a handbook that is going to be for sale on the website. That is, it's actually going to be a workbook that is going to go through all of these things in more detail, but not in complete detail, because the best way to understand the situation is to sit down and go through a conference or a lecture with it where we've got several hours of discussion. But there will be something available soon for those that are interested in looking at that. But some of the pains, which crosses all barriers. Physical pain, we all know that. Anything from a headache to, my toe hurts, Emotional pain, something has happened to you as you've been growing up. Mama did this, Daddy did that, or my partner did that. Spiritual pain, hurting because we do not understand the Creator. We don't feel like we have that connection. How about financial pain? I bet we all can resonate with that at some point, at some place in time, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then there's karmic. Of course, I am speaking from the premise of believing that we have lived before and we will live again. And karmic pain would be a task that you had set aside for your soul and you did not finish it, so you've brought it forward into this lifetime in order to complete it. Or maybe it wasn't a bad thing that you did in another lifetime. Maybe the karmic is incompleted. So, and here's a new one. This is something that we can resonate with today. How about generational pain? I bet you've never heard that.
I have never heard that.
Generational pain. Think about people that reincarnate and come back in a ethnicity or a race in order to purge the situation of bias, of prejudice, of pain and suffering. What about when the Japanese culture was interred after the bombing at Pearl Harbor? What about some of the issues that we are hearing about almost daily today? But we have generational pain where people will decide that this is the lifetime where they are going to live a certain way, endure a certain type of pain and judgment in order to be part of the process that will turn this around. So that's a very interesting one that's evolving at large, almost global levels right now. Pain of abuse, somebody hurt you when you were young, growing up. How about the pain of addiction? When something in your life has control over you, that's an addiction, no matter what it is. And how about the pain of just simply loss? Maybe the worst thing that you are thinking about in your life today is that your mother died, your father died, or your child died. Oh, it could even be a pet, because we get very attached to our pets. But the pain of loss, just of losing at a monumental, soulful level. How about judgment? People judge us one way or another. We don't look like everyone. Maybe we've got a deformity of some sort. People judge because of race, color, creed. Racism is part of it. How about PTSD? We've had a lot of our troops that have come back from protecting us, and they're not even the same people. They don't even know how to function anymore. So the pain, the backlash of having been there to serve, to protect all of us, to give us the opportunity to understand freedom and so forth. And, of course, we certainly thank them for their service. But how about the pain of just simply remembering something? Maybe it didn't happen in this lifetime. Maybe it is a major catastrophe that happened in another lifetime. And you've brought that knowledge forward so that you can remember. Because we often will remind each other, don't forget, remember this so that you can change it. Then there's global, there's unresolved issues, things that we don't get done, which is kind of like the karmic. Or how about, here's a good one, gender pain. Now, we're hearing a lot about gender pain these days. And so what comes to our mind?
That would be the LGBT community.
People changing their sexual identity and moving on, and it's a big thing. It's a big thing nowadays. So, yeah, we experience pain at every level. We hurt at every level. And, what about that smart person that said, hey, no pain, no gain? That's so silly. But in truth, it's pretty true in a lot of ways. We learn a lot about our strength. We learn how strong we are from pain. And we have physical conditions, Marianne. We have cancers. We have a lot of things that plague the human body today that give us pain. So there are a lot of reasons for why we hurt. Well, in order to begin the process of turning that around, it would help if you could first identify, okay, I hurt, I have pain. What is it about? Try to find the bottom line. Try to identify the pain, because if it's not a cancer, or if it's not a physical condition, if it's emotional or in our thoughts and memories, there's a very good chance that we can begin turning this around almost immediately. So get to the bottom line, try to identify where it comes from, and then, we must begin the process of forgiving if that's part of it, or we have to communicate, if that's part of it, where we have the some of the issues that require that we simply just start talking about it. We have to do that too. So the main thing, I believe, is to identify the pain if you can, and then try to identify the source and go back and find your own accountability with it. Maybe we weren't the nicest person at some point in our own life, so perhaps we have got some accountability for our own level of pain. So it's a big issue. It's a complex issue, isn't it?
It's very thought-provoking. I believe that it really will have people looking at why we have the pains that we have more in depth and really delve into it.
And I have to say that another thing that comes to mind is that if we are, shall we say, if we are inexperienced in pain, if we aren't used to this, if we haven't learned how to process through that, you know what, Marianne, I think a lot of us will believe that the answer to that is to take a pill, take medication.
Yep.
We almost have epidemic of that going on in our society today, is that a pill is the answer to everything, right?
That's really how it's seeming right now.
Not always the answer, though. So, interestingly enough, is that our soul, our spirit, is able to process pain. We're able to do this.
We're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been talking with Judy Goodman at judygoodman.com. We'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We are here with my very special guest and very dear friend, Judy Goodman, talking about why do we hurt. So welcome back to the show, Judy.
Gosh, Marianne, what a deep and complex subject. We are covering a lot of bases in light years here, so let's just scoot on and get as much in as we possibly can. Let me say that in large part, our own thinking is responsible for our pain, our own thinking, because sometimes we think I'm not worthy, or we accept the fact that we are a victim, or we're concerned about when we may succeed or not succeed. And aside from the fact that we individually have pain, there's pain in our area, neighborhoods, in the world. This is a big deal. But in order to change pain, that has to begin within us. Now, even if we were thinking in terms of changing global pain, which, would be a monumental and noble thing to consider, we have to begin the process within us. And we must talk about pain. Okay, maybe you don't have a therapist, maybe you don't have a friend or neighbor or somebody in your family that will listen to you, then just start writing it down. Write what hurts. Write where do you think that pain came from? How did it begin? But just begin the dialogue one way or another, where you're talking or whether you're writing. But it's a very small, it's a very simple thing. But, I'm thinking about, as I'm saying this to your listeners, it's small, it's simple, and we can begin. I know it won't always be easy. It's not an easy thing, even if it's small and simple. But, it has to begin within you, no matter what the pain is, no matter what the hurt is. And do your part to change what's within you and change within another. And the act or the art of forgiving may be key to moving beyond pain. Remember that to forgive something or to forgive someone is not an act of condoning. It is simply to let yourself off of the hook, because whatever has been done wrong will forever be accountable to the God of their understanding or to the powers that be. But forgive something, then set yourself free, and then that way you're able to move on. It's kind of an interesting thing to me that in order to understand happiness, to understand joy, excitement, and all of these good things that we're seeking, do you know that most of the time we understand it because we have, in fact, gone through pain or we have endured pain? How about that?
That is really something to think about. And when you talk about writing it down, is that the act of transference? So we're transferring the pain out?
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be clinical. It doesn't have to be specified in any way. And if the only thing in the world that you're able to do is to write it down, then at least begin writing. Keep a little journal. And, don't think that you have to write it in all nice words. In other words, if someone has hurt you, or if you see an injustice in the world, if there is something about the generational pain that is bothering you, a lot of the racism issues that we have, and that certainly covers a gambit of ethnicities and people, then just write it down. In other words, write your anger, spell it out, say what you think, what you feel, because to get it out is the best thing. Pain is not necessary, but it is part of our process. It's part of what our soul, what our physical body, what our mind, body, and spirit, what we are able to endure. And how many people do you know, and I have to say that I've been part of this too, is sometimes I don't get it if it doesn't hurt a little bit. If it doesn't get my attention, then I may not remember it, or I might not learn and grow from it. But, I've also gotten wise enough nowadays to say, okay, enough is enough. I don't need to go through this anymore. So taking the pills, listen, I don't want to say there's never a need for taking medication. There is. There are times when having medication and pills will be exactly what we need to help the body through the process, and then as the body gets stronger, then we don't require those things. So I'm not saying we do not need that at some point in time, or that surgeries are beneficial and helpful, because I believe that there is a time and place for all of these things. But when we give up our own control, when we continue to believe that a pill is the only way we can change or be happy or whatever, then we have given up our own control and may even be falling under the shelter of an addiction of some sort. So, but we are able to process this. We can do it. No matter how bad it hurts, we can move through it. And maybe one of those deep, unabiding kind of pains is the pain of loss and grief. If you've had a child that has died, maybe you've had to see that loss. And we often think, no parent should have to see one of their children die. It's hard enough if you're a child and you lose your parents, but that deep grief, it penetrates every part of us. And here's another one. Let's don't forget this one. How about unresolved issues? That's a biggie.
That is a biggie.
Ever had one?
A few.
Have you ever had one? Any of you ever had one? Something that you never did, you didn't get it right, you kept leaving it, and it continues to grow. Well, here's my theory that I've watched, and most of you that know me know that I can see spirit and I see the energy of these things. Well, if we have unresolved issues, they will eventually go cellular in our body. And then if we continue to leave them unresolved, at first it might become your discomfort or your dis-ease. And if you continue to leave it unattended to, then it may go into a disease, if you will, and eventually may become part of the component that will be your demise. So if you have unresolved issues in your own life, do not let that become the ultimate answer of why you're hurting, the fact that you just simply are not taking care of what's going on in your own life. And, Marianne, this is a complex issue, and we've talked about the possibility of doing this for an entire hour, and even at that, I'm not sure how much we can cover and how deep we can go, but you have such a great listening audience. If they want to submit a question or a thought that we might take into the next time we talk about these things, we certainly will be happy to entertain that. So let us know what part of this you want to hear more about, because we are very aware that it's a very involved situation, talking about why we hurt. There's no quick and easy answer, and it sounds like we're just kind of grazing and glazing over this and just glossing over. We don't mean for it to come across that way. We're trying to say a lot of things in a short amount of time, mostly just to get you to think and realize that whatever it is that's hurting inside of you, there may be an answer. There may be a way out. It certainly will require your participation, your help, your involvement, but there might be an answer, and let's don't lose sight of that. So what do you think, Marianne? Shall we just plan this for the future to maybe have another show talking about it and check in with your listeners and see what particularly they're interested in? What do you think?
Oh, definitely. And I have you marked down for August 26th.
Uh-oh.
So, yeah, you're already on the calendar.
Here she is, ahead of me as usual. So we'll certainly plan to do that, and I'm hoping that some, email me or email Marianne, but let us know what is of interest to you, and we'll try to go a little bit deeper. As I say, this is very deep, very complex, and yet there are answers that are very simple and things that can be incorporated. And if you're taking a pill for pain, okay, we're not judging that, and it may be that it is something that you must do. But if you're taking a pill for pain, whether it's emotional, physical, no matter what it is, if it's something that can be changed, then let's work on that. Let's see what we can do different. Let's see if there is another perspective that might also work for you.
Judy, over the years, working with you, and for our listeners that are, not really aware of Judy or who she is, she's probably, in my mind, one of the most gifted people I have ever come across. And I've been blessed enough to call her friend, and she's my mentor that has been helping me along my path and through the different pains in life. And it is, sometimes you need a little bit of a helping hand and someone who's, objective, that could sit down and have a come to Jesus with you about what your pain's about. Because sometimes it's hard to hear what that pain is about.
Wait a minute. You just invoked a word that I do sometimes say I'm having a come to Jesus talk with people, but we're not. In truth, we're not here talking about your religion or your beliefs.
No, not at all.
That's something that I tease people about sometimes, and when I say that to you, it means we are about to get really serious about what's going on. So we're not doing that. But, hey, we all make mistakes. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes. What you do about what you have done is what will be more important. And let's just get it done, okay? Let's change this for you.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us today, Judy. I really appreciate you doing that.
My pleasure, as always. Looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, without a doubt. And for all of our listeners out there, you can see and reach Judy Goodman at her website, which is judygoodman.com. Feel free to reach out and email her at judykgoodman@aol.com.
And remember to be part of the conversation with Judy. I'd like to thank all of you for tuning in today. And remember, make every moment count.
Join us next time for Moments with Marianne, when host Marianne Pestana brings another inspirational gifted leader to help us grow. Tune in every second Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Moments with Marianne, when the Dream Vision 7 radio network is at 1510 a.m. Boston. Or catch Moments with Marianne every Thursday and Friday at 5 p.m. and 5 a.m. Eastern Time by going to dreamvision7radio.com. To learn how Marianne started her business from the ground up, visit mariannepestana.com. Don't miss this, and remember, make every moment count.